Several days ago, we saw the publishing of a website, dayforfreedom.com. On this website is a video where several personalities pull tape off of their mouths in a sign of opposing censorship and promoting free speech. This website is a promo for an upcoming event in London on May 6th called A Day for Freedom, where advocates will talk about the importance of free speech. Naturally, Antifa has said this is a day for bigotry, and the people speaking there are fascists, and they plan to hold an opposing rally. What makes this interesting is that a group called Left Hook is also planning an anti-fascist martial arts tournament the day before, and they have called on individuals to stick around and go oppose Tommy Robinson. So it seems like there could potentially be a clash at A Day for Freedom. Virtual Shield is a virtual private network service that can help keep you and your data safe as you browse the web. Whether it's a hacker, big business, or government actor, your data can be stolen and spied on. With Virtual Shield, you can protect your privacy and add a simple layer of defense to your internet browsing. Go to virtualshield.com/Timcast and use the promo code TIMCAST to get 20% off and no payments for 30 days. There is never a guarantee of security, but that doesn't mean we don't lock our doors and take effective measures to protect ourselves and our families. For those that are interested, I've included the link to Virtual Shield below. The video from A Day for Freedom is a bit overly dramatic, showing several personalities with what looks like duct tape on their mouths, playing some pretty intense music, and then finally, they pull the tape off. In a statement I can only assume means that people refused to be silenced or censored. The event is promoting free speech, so naturally this makes sense. May 6, 2018, Whitehall, London, featuring Milo Yiannopoulos, Raheem Kassam, Lauren Southern, Count Dankula, Sargon of Akkad, Tommy Robinson, Gavin McInnes, and more speakers to be announced. And this is going to be 4 days from today. Well, technically 5 days. The website says, a day to be heard. As we traveled the world to film with our guests and speakers, we listened to their perspective on the need for free speech, and one thing became clear. Everyone agreed that without free speech, there can ultimately be no freedom, and without it, the freedoms on which we found our societies would begin to crumble and fade. Those of you that are familiar with my work know that I do agree with free speech and free expression like most people do. Now, a group called Left Hook, which trains in anti-fascist martial arts and self-defense, is planning a tournament the day before in Brighton, which is about 50 miles south of London. They have told people to stick around to come and oppose Tommy Robinson the next day. The flyer reads, 5th of May, 2018, Brighton, UK, physical resistance. And you see boxing gloves with the anti-fascist symbol. And it says, a one-day tournament featuring boxing and KI, a seminar from Peter Irving, an anti-fascist professional MMA fighter, and music in the evening. Left Hook Brighton, Brighton Anti-Fascists, BrightonAntifascist.com. And the post says, next weekend, Saturday 5th of May in Brighton, the follow-up to last year's Physical Resistance Anti-Fascist Martial Arts Tournament. Last year, people came from across the country to fight. We hope to see you all again. Peter Irving is returning to deliver a seminar plus music, food, and booze. If you're traveling down, make it a double whammy and stick around to oppose Tommy Robinson and the FLA in London on Sunday with a link. And Antifa has created their own mock version called Join the Day for Bigotry. In the video, they show Lauren Southern and then a statement out of context from her where she's talking about how she was accused of leafleting racist flyers. The next criticism I find particularly interesting because they show a clip of Brittany Pettibone, which says the rise of anti-whiteness. The video depicts several other speakers and shows them making controversial statements, albeit some of them are out of context. I also want to point out why I find this particular one so strange is that the rise of anti-whiteness is a title that could be attributed to anyone on the left as well as the right. And I'm not sure how this is a direct criticism of Brittany Pettibone. The video is critical of free speech, and it says that people at this event are going to try and take away other people's freedoms. And they say, on May 6, 2018, an assortment of hate preachers will gather in London. This is a spoof video to expose their true agenda. Join the counter demonstration. And this post from Facebook, oppose the Day of Hate, 2 p.m. Sunday, 6 May at Whitehall. The details are thousands of far-right bigots will be joining anti-Muslim hate preachers Tommy Robinson and Milo Yiannopoulos to march through central London on 6 May. They are hiding behind freedom of speech, trying to appear legitimate while continuing to push their bigoted, racist, and violent views. We will continue to oppose all forms of hate speech which mobilizes and spreads violence against minorities in our society. We cannot let the far right march through our city unopposed. We must never allow racist and fascist views to take hold anywhere. So anti-fascists are planning on holding an opposing rally. And as I mentioned earlier, the group Left Hook is also encouraging their members to go and attend this event. And the reason why I bring up Left Hook is, for one, they train in MMA, which means there is a real potential for violence against people who attend this rally. But also, because Vice recently published a documentary exploring Left Hook and looking at what they believe and why they train, and I think it is particularly relevant to understand some of the anti-fascist ideology.
We've had Tommy Robinson coming onto the scene with the rebel media, bringing out big numbers in Manchester early in the year against the Salafist bombing. We've had the Football Lads Alliance come out. I think there's probably a lot of people on that march who aren't far right, but they will provide a breeding ground and a recruitment ground for much more far-right forces in the UK.
In this particular clip, one of the members of Left Hook talks about how Tommy Robinson was protesting the Salafist bombing in Manchester. And that's particularly strange that anti-fascists would take issue with someone opposing terrorism. But I think it's fair to say that they're more concerned about Tommy Robinson opposing Islam in general. He does go on to say, though, that football lads who are not far-right will provide a breeding ground for the far-right.
Fascists pose a particular threat to society, and at the core of their very ideology is genocide. And I think with people like that, you need to use any means necessary to stop them.
The next clip shows a woman saying that genocide is at the core of the fascist ideology, and you must use any means necessary to oppose them. Again, I find this particularly worrisome, just to me, because you have to consider that earlier someone mentioned football lads might not be far right, but that they're a breeding ground. To what extent is someone a fascist, and to what extent will you use any means necessary to oppose them? When someone says any means necessary, don't be surprised if we see something like we saw in Berkeley, the throwing of mortars, M80s, and other makeshift weapons or bike locks over people's skulls.
Anti-fascism, to me, I can't understand why it would be anything other than your default state. If you're not an anti-fascist, well then surely you're a fascist.
And the last clip I'm showing, which might be the most alarming, is one of the trainers from Left Hook, someone trained in MMA, who says, to him, if you are not anti-fascist, you are fascist. Obviously, there are individuals who don't want to align with what Antifa is because of the violent actions they have taken in the past. If you do not agree with them using violence against innocent individuals who they mislabel, does that make you a fascist? Does that make you a target for their martial arts training? Does that mean they can use any means necessary to oppose you because you don't agree with them? According to RT, the free speech rally and opposing protest looks likely to descend into discord. Last time Robinson spoke at Speaker's Corner to advocate for freedom of speech, scores of police were required to keep the peace. Scuffles broke out after a handful of counter-protesters confronted Robinson and his group, and it is understood that police made arrests. The parody video made by Antifa and the opposition to this protest doesn't even show every speaker. It doesn't criticize all of them. It just shows what they tried to make seem like the most egregious offenders. Now, there's a problem that's affecting moderate discourse and politics in the West, not just the US, but also the UK. And that's the idea that if your enemy supports it, you must oppose it. The left is allowing free speech to become a right-wing issue, and they're actually attacking individuals who are standing up in defense of free speech. This can only do one thing. Anyone who agrees with free speech is now going to be aligned with the right. And this is something we saw a few weeks ago, when Melissa Chen said, "You might have noticed the unnecessary convoluted topic reminiscent of 4D chess. This is deliberate." And this is in response to an event called Dissent from Minorities Within Minorities. She said, "Because we were warned not to have the phrase free speech in naming our event, lest the student union disapprove it. The rationale? Free speech is now a dog whistle to the far right." There seems to be a trend, mostly among the left, that if the right supports it, you must oppose it. Think about Donald Trump and the Korean situation. Many people on the left don't want to give credit to Trump for what is happening with Korean peace. And when you have speakers who actually aren't right-wing, are left-wing, but agree with free speech, they are labeled fascists. And you actually have activists opposing the idea that individuals have a right to free expression. In my opinion, this is only going to lead moderate individuals who agree with free expression to join the right. If the left wants to demonize things that are typically praised by the average individual, then sure enough, those who agree with that principle will side against them. The event is just about 5 days away from now, and many people expect clashes and violence in the streets. You have a group that trains in MMA that believes anybody who isn't anti-fascist is a fascist. And some of their members, at least one of them said on camera, they have the right, they must use any means necessary to stop them. So what do you think's going to happen? Is this going to be another free speech battle like we've seen across the US? Or do you think this might fizzle out? Tommy Robinson said he wants to make this the biggest free speech rally UK has ever seen. But stay tuned, because I will have a new video every day up at 4 p.m. and I am planning several trips, so I may or may not be there. But thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to follow me on Twitter @TimCast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you all tomorrow at 4.